Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And remember this, change is inevitable, except from a vending machine. And other words of wisdom for today, those who live by the sword get shot by those who don't. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning. Good morning on a Wednesday, and kind of cloudy outside this morning. Might get some rain. We'll talk to Michael in just a little bit, but I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and also want to remind you about some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service this morning and call 734-6969. And a good morning to Gina.
Well, good morning, sir, and a fine Wednesday it shall be.
I hope so.
It will. It's Wednesday, so that means we're on the downhill slide for the weekend. So
is there a chance that you have an eraser over there big enough to erase all the pitfalls and problems that I've created for myself already this morning?
No, but I've got a shovel to fill in all the holes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, audience, here, honestly, real quick, before we go to our pledge, I threw away a great big stack of checks. I threw them away. And my lovely bride, like I said earlier, had to play like a homeless person and go through the trash.
You know, I've been there and I've done that, and so I know the feeling.
Oh.
And at least that they were found.
Yeah, but you know, the look on her face as she gazed into my eyes was one that I cannot even explain on the radio.
Oh, I can honestly see her body posture, and I can see the glare, and I can just see her with her pursed lips and her hands on her hips.
Were you here?
No, but I know Deanne well enough.
Oh, my God. I'll tell you what. I was afraid I choked on a bug. I got little bugs flying around in here this morning. It's been a bad day so far, but I honestly didn't think that I'd be on the radio this morning. I thought I'd have to call you from Magic Valley Memorial or wherever and say, hey, I'm sorry. I've been admitted.
Well, you know, God bless your wife.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, we better get to the pledge.
Yes, we've got Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the word.
Okay, Rotten, go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, and your wife is so sweet and so meek and humble and mild. You never have that problem, do you? That laugh just got you a right hook to the ear.
I'm gunning for you. She says she's gunning for you.
Well, listen, it wouldn't take many bullets, I'll tell you that. Thanks a lot. See you later. Okay. God bless you. Hey, it's time for the weather forecast, and it's brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. And don't forget, they've got all their Halloween and Christmas decorations out there for you to see. And Whitney has great artistic ability over there, and they've got a shipment of repurchased furniture and dressers there. Holy cow, and they will meet or beat any price on flooring. Better get a hold of them. Better stop in. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Here's Michael Rogers with the weather.
Happy Wednesday. Got some clouds in the forecast. Got some, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some sprinkles, maybe spitting out there for today. In our forecast, our weather story for this week, and the day is the beginning of it, is cooler temperatures. It's going to be in the mid to upper 60s all the way through Sunday. So that being said, 68 for the high today, a little bit cooler tomorrow, and then back up to 68 for the high day after tomorrow. Other than that, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you, everybody, by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. And look for their blue door. Really nice people. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, Gina, in the media, we all try not to make any mistakes. But, I think the print media, hold on, caller, I'll be right with you. I think the print media has more advantages not to make mistakes or let them get in front of the public.
Agreed.
And there was a story about Boise State Broncos in the paper this morning. They lost receiver Matt Miller for the rest of the season due to a leg injury. And they had a picture above his story, and they said at the caption of the story, Boise State wide receiver Matt Miller, number 2, is tackled by Air Force defensive back, and then it goes on. Well, first of all, Matt Miller is not even in the picture. Second of all, it's a picture of Jay Ajayi, the running back for Boise State. Third of all, Jay Ajayi is black with long hair, and Matt Miller is white with very short hair. And Jay Ajayi's number is 27, and Matt Miller's number is not even in the picture. How could they make such a mistake?
Not paying attention.
I guess.
I honestly, number 1, not paying attention. Number 2, not doing their research to make sure that they've got the correct photo for the correct player for said story.
Yeah.
So, when you have, you and I have been in the news long enough to know there are certain protocols that you call to that you go through to double check your stories, period, point blank. We have to double check everything that we put in on the air. And so when you're in the print media, you're working up on a deadline, but you still have to double check and sometimes triple check to make sure that the facts you're putting out there, whether it's pictures or in the print, that it's right. And obviously, they massively failed to do that.
And the thing is, they, of all the media, have an opportunity to correct their mistakes before the rest of the public can see the mistake.
Exactly, but nobody caught it.
Yeah. It's frustrating to me that they can get away with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Actually, I think they left.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do a commercial then. I apologize. Call back. Good old Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 west of Paul. And, hey, the cold weather is coming. You know that. For Pete's sakes, it's already October 15th. So if you got sprinklers and you haven't called them to get on the list to blow out your sprinklers before they freeze and really do some damage, you better get a hold of them right now, 438-2485. Good old Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 west of Paul. The best. Good old Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Oh, by the way, too, I want to remind everybody about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, again, going to the cold weather, you better get your furnace serviced now and ready so that when you tippy-toe across the cold linoleum to turn up the thermostat, it's going to go, yes, sir, we're in action and ready for duty. Well, you better make sure it's serviced and ready for the cold, and also that you've got new air filters for your furnace, and they've got them all right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have a lot of news on a national level to report on this morning, but I was going through the paper this morning and just checking for local stories. And I got to be honest with you, folks. I hope nobody's having breakfast right now, because this story that was in the Times News about a couple in Burley living in a feces-filled home with a little 4-year-old boy. And the disgusting nature of this story from these two people that have this child, these are two, according to the story, and I'm going to use the word alleged, I am going to use the alleged deadbeats. I mean, I cannot even perceive for 10 seconds how anybody could have that kind of a filthy home to live in. Don't give me any excuses like, oh, so-and-so's got a bad back, or they just have a hard time getting around. No. Then get rid of the animals in your home. And the story gave the stats and the facts that there were 15 cats living in this filthy home with a dog. And there were feces all over the floor. They were all over everywhere, and the boy had not had a bath in some time. His hair was all matted. His hands were covered in grime. That boy should be taken away permanently from these two so-called parents. I have no sympathy. I have no empathy. I have nothing for those people to live in that kind of squalor and that kind of filth. There is no excuse. There is no excuse. And I certainly hope the Child Protective Services will never let that child go back into that environment. Unbelievable. That story I just absolutely, my heart went out to that little boy, and my anger and hatred went out to the two adults. And I will not back up on my verbiage. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A very dear friend of ours, and he's done so much for the state of Idaho, Senator Dean Cameron, running unopposed for the Senate in District 27, a voice of influence and a voice of caring, and I can appreciate and back that up. We do appreciate everything he's done, and he urges you to do your patriotic duty and go vote on November 4th. Dean, of course, also wants you to remember to vote yes for the constitutional amendment, and please, November 4th, go vote. Paid for by Idaho Senator Dean Cameron, District 27. Give us a call. Come on, get up off the couch and give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to do this commercial, and then I want to talk about the city of Houston. Yesterday, my dear friend Randy called in, and I told him that I was compiling some of the information to put on the program this morning, and we're going to have that momentarily. Caller, I'll be right with you. Please do not go away. Give me 30 seconds. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Winter gloves are in. Keep your handsies warm. And they've got all the Ariat boots for men and women. Really a nice display of boots over there. And they've got the wood pellets for your pellet stove. Whether you want one bag, never could figure that out, or a ton. It's kind of like potato chips. You can't just have one. Well, Valley-wide is the place to go, and they got all the feed for your livestock, too. Ready for winter? They are at Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeff. Your caller this morning is a pledge, made me think of a real sweet story, and I thought you'd probably appreciate that. My twin brother's granddaughter was sitting on the floor just playing the other day, and all of a sudden broke out into the Pledge of Allegiance and just said it from stem to stern. They'd never heard her practice or anything, and she got it word for word. And here she just went about her way, and that was all she had to say about that. But I thought that was sweet. And listening to that gentleman this morning, I assume he's a day or two older than 6.
I appreciate that. You know, I got to tell you this. I have had people that are connected in politics, all the way to folks that are farmers and ranchers, to people that get up every day and go to work at a factory, whatever. And everybody says how much they appreciate that Pledge of Allegiance with all the different people calling in and doing it. And so I really appreciate that story. Thank you for telling it.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Have a good day. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. What's that?
That's feedback. Jerry, turn down your radio.
Hello?
Yes, did it.
Don't ever call in with the radio up because, oh my, that hurts. Good morning, Jerry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I turned it to FM by mistake with my dead fingers.
Uh-oh.
Hey, what is this constitutional amendment you keep saying we need to vote for?
HJR2, and basically what it does and what it will do is ensure that the legislature will be able to represent you, the people, the constituents, and not have executive action or special interest groups come in and push through something that's going to affect the state of Idaho.
I think that's a good idea.
It is a good idea, and I would not tell you, my dear friend Jerry, to go vote yes for that initiative and that amendment if it wasn't good. It is a good thing. It makes it so the legislature, which works for you and you voted for them to vote for you, it makes sure that your voice is heard.
Well, that's a good thing. Okay, I'll get out of your way and I'll listen.
All right, Jerry. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Good stuff.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. As I said yesterday, Randy called in, and this is very serious. And I know that the ministers and the clergy in this area, if they're listening right now, I'm asking you to get involved. I'm asking you to send a letter of support to Houston, Texas clergy, and let them know that you're very supportive, that you will not allow anybody, any group, or any political movement come into your church and say, well, listen, you have to turn over your sermon if it deals with homosexuality, gender identity, or anything else that might offend somebody. In other words, what they're trying to do in Houston with the city's first openly lesbian mayor, Annise Parker, is they're trying to kill and stifle the First Amendment. They are trying to kill and stifle the right of churches to preach the Bible. And it's about time that Christians stopped turning the other cheek and went on the offense. I'm sick of this. If you want to have a sermon on Romans 1:27, fine, do it. Because you're talking about words of the Bible, God's words, not man's words. And for this woman, and I put that in parentheses, this lesbian mayor, to say that the city's subpoena of sermons and other pastoral communications will be kind of looked at and read and perceived. If it's not a non-discrimination against any group, we'll let you go ahead and put it in your church. Are you kidding me? Churches, you need to stand up. You need to fight back. And this is absolutely an infringement on churches, religion, and free speech. I was just sickened when I read this. The city of Houston demanding pastors turn over their sermons. Are you kidding me? And most all the pastors said, not going to happen. Your thoughts, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, the problem is, and I know Alex Lissow, my dear friend, took a calling up into the Ashton area, and he's not here anymore, but there was a guy that I had a lot of respect for. He would stand at 6'2" and 350 pounds and look you in the eye as a former lineman for Oklahoma University and say, bring it on. Bring it on. Don't forget pumpkin pancakes. Oh, at Denny's restaurant. Oh, my. Deanne, look at this picture. Pumpkin pancakes and hash browns and bacon and eggs sunny side up. Oh, I'm drooling all over the microphone. I love breakfast. You'll love anything and everything at Denny's on their menu. It is fantabulous. And Zeb's Lunch Punch is going to be over there on the 30th, the day before Halloween, for our Halloween party. It is going to be good. So everybody come on over and be there. And don't forget gift cards for people that you love and really care for to go and enjoy a meal at Denny's restaurant. 611 Overland in Burley. Yep, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Give us a call. Why are we so quiet this morning? Come on, help me out a little bit. Give us a call on those subjects we talked about and let us know your opinion. You know what, folks? If we don't speak up and we don't speak out, that's when the bad and the evil in our society takes over. And yours truly is not going to quit speaking up and speaking out. I ask you to join me. Say, by the way, too, don't forget Snyder Surplus. What nice people in a brand new building. Man, they love this building. And it's still located right there at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. And they've got so much in there. It's not just army and hunting supplies. No. They've got everything. And from furniture, couches, desks, office chairs, everything, all the way to bunk beds and combat boots, Halloween decorations and costumes. It's all there for you at Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Stop in and see them today. Caller, go ahead. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. The city of Houston should immediately initiate a recall election for that trash in their mayor's office.
I do, too. I think so, too. I couldn't agree more.
I'll bet it would fly higher than the kite. I'll bet she'd be out of there just real quick.
You know, the last time, how long has it been since you've read the Constitution of the United States of America?
Yep.
I said,
if I can barely hear you, I'll turn the radio back up and listen.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. When you read the First Amendment, and let's read it very slowly and carefully. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. I'm going to cut it off right there. You know what? They're saying that pastors have to turn in their sermons? Are you kidding me? Preaching the Word of God? How despicable. And any pastor of any church that would do that should not be a pastor of any church. Caller, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Would you do me a favor? Can you stay on the line for about 60 seconds so I can play the Capital Press Ag Minute, and then we'll get right on the air with you?
You betcha.
All right, stand by. Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAgs.com.
The Obama administration has granted provisional operation status to 13 Mexican trucking firms that have hauled goods to and from the United States during a pilot program for the past 3 years. The program expired at the start of October. The administration said little about what would happen next, and various commodity groups were nervous that Mexican tariffs might resume. The purpose of the program was to evaluate the safety of cross-border long-haul operations. A spokeswoman for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration said the Transportation Department is evaluating its next course. Meanwhile, the 13 firms will be allowed to continue operations in the U.S. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brous.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
I'm sorry, caller. Go ahead quickly, please.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. It's just fine. You know, Zeb, I'm trying to figure out, you know, you state the story about the family in Burley with the little 4-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Now, you have animals. I have animals. Our houses aren't full of crap. Why has nobody ever turned them in before? Somebody had to know what was going on in that house. That poor little boy.
I can't even imagine, and I'm just, it makes me cringe to even talk about this kind of a story, because here you have two adults and a little boy living in a home with 15 cats and a dog, and the way the story was written, overwhelming odor of urine and feces and trash all over the place, moldy food in the refrigerator, overflowing, just absolutely pathetic conditions. How can two adults, I don't care if you're penniless, how can two adults allow to live in that kind of squalor?
Well, they can't be penniless if they have 15 cats and a dog. They have to have food. And number two, are they on drugs? I mean, that's no excuse.
Oh, how interesting, because Child Protective Services had been involved with the family since the child tested positive for marijuana at birth. What does that tell you?
What?
Yep.
And I don't take Times News because I don't like Times News. That is, why did they not take that baby right after?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I will say this.
Go ahead.
I just want to say this quickly, Donna, and I don't want you to elaborate on this, but remember about 5-6 years ago when I was doing all my Christmas deliveries and everything, we went to a home, and I'm not going to elaborate, but it was similar and comparable to what this story was about, and I absolutely have no soft spot in my heart whatsoever for people that can't keep things clean. There's no excuse. There's no excuse whatsoever.
No, I totally agree, and I remember the same thing. I still see them in town once in a while, and it just breaks my heart. Children have no choice in their home life. Adults do, and they need to be held accountable, and God forbid, bring that little boy to my house.
There is, I hope and I pray that these two people that were arrested will absolutely feel the full punishment and wrath of the law. I do. I really hope that they can't plea bargain out of this. I really hope they will never have an opportunity to ever have children in their home again. I hope that they have to live to where once a month, twice a month, whatever, they have to be looked at with their living conditions and slapped back in jail if necessary. There is no excuse for living under those conditions.
No, absolutely none. And I'll back that all the way to the bank. There is no excuse. I have 3 dogs. I have 2 small dogs and a big dog, as you well know. And my house gets a little bit hairy sometimes, but I try to keep it vacuumed up. But even when I had a cat indoors and outdoors, you never smelt it. It wasn't dirty. There is no reason for anyone having animals.
I don't care if you've got a doggone parakeet. There's no reason to let your home turn into that kind of a filthy sludge pond.
No, and this poor little boy has probably crawled around in that stuff his whole
Lord.
life.
Yes, I know. I'm just sick about it. But I certainly, and I mean this, if all of the charges are true and all of the allegations, and the courts let these people off, then I would say this: damn the court system.
I'm with you 100%. And I just have one more thing before we go. I want everybody to write Congress or email the president somehow, close the dadgum airport.
Amen. This is so... Donna, I'm frustrated. I sit here and this program is heard all over the world. We've got people listening right now in Texas, Wisconsin, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, Florida, California. God bless all of them. And the calls and the letters and the emails that I'm getting, people are absolutely astounded as to how this administration could be this absolutely irresponsible in not closing down, containing, and confining the problem with Ebola instead of leaving the doors wide open for more.
No, I agree, and I'll say it like I've said it before. This is part of his agenda.
I only deal in facts, and I haven't had that proven yet, but I know the incentive to believe that is wide open, and I can't argue with you. Thanks, Donna.
And you betcha. You have a great day.
All right, God bless. Thank you. It just makes no sense. The doctors, the reputable people in the medical industry that I've talked to, they're shaking their head and rolling their eyes over the stupidity of the way this administration is handling this problem. Caller, bear with me. Do not hang up. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Don't let go of your get-out-of-jail-free card, etc. I'll be right there. Don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental, 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Oh, for all your fall projects, Berry Equipment and Rental, they have all your equipment. I went by the Burley location yesterday. I mean, they've got Bobcat loaders, Doosan loaders. They've got the big dudes out there, all the Coyote tractors. Man, if you're looking for equipment, that's the place to go to rent or buy. They've got it all for you. Berry Equipment and Rental in Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Berry Equipment and Rental. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, the problem with these people in Burley, this couple in the filthy house, if the Child Protective Service has been involved for 4 years since this kid was born addicted to marijuana, I can't believe that.
I do not understand, sir, how they could, A, leave the child with those parents, B, not be checking into the home and checking on the living conditions, and C, why the child wasn't pulled out a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, I just wanted to make that point.
No, I'm glad you did, and I appreciate your call. And do you agree with me that those two people should have every bit of law thrown at them and suffer their consequences and never be allowed to be parents again?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I would go as far as to say put them in the landfill.
I don't know. They probably wouldn't notice the environment because they've lived in that type of environment. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This is just a disgusting story. And to think it's right here in our backyard. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I am surprised that you have let that notice come up this morning.
I can't hear you. Helen, you got to speak up a little bit. I can't hear you.
I say I'm surprised you let the news pass over you.
The news?
Our illustrious governor not doing a damn thing and letting the gay marriage go in. They said they could start getting married at 9 o'clock this morning.
No, wait a minute, Helen.
That's the case.
No, wait a minute. You're a dear friend of mine, and I'm not going to ever point the finger of blame at somebody that it's not their fault. Don't point your finger at Butch Otter. It's the Ninth Circuit Court and the Supreme Court that changed this. Butch Otter is absolutely opposed to gay marriage, but his hands are tied. He can't stop anything right now.
Then why did he say okay?
Okay, he didn't say okay, Helen. He's against it.
He said this morning, okay, there's nothing I can do, okay.
There isn't anything he can do, Helen. The Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit Court have opened up this mess, and that's what it is, to the point where they've defied him, they've overrode him. He can't do anything to stop it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Our state is going down the drain.
Well, I'll agree with you there. But, Helen, come on. You're one of my sweetest, dearest friends. You can't point the finger of blame at somebody when they have absolutely no control. His administration fought it tooth and tongue, didn't want it. It's against everything he stands for. I know that personally. I heard him last night on television saying how much he was opposed to what the Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit Court has done. His hands are tied, Helen. Don't blame him.
Well, there's a heck of a lot of work we've got to do then to change things at the Supreme Court.
I agree with you there, and it takes...
get rid of that damn District 9.
I wouldn't mind at all if they broke off and were floating in the Pacific.
Well, yeah, let's send them without an order.
All right, thanks, Ellen. God bless you. Thanks. Yeah, it's easy to point the finger of blame, but let's make sure the blame is necessarily pointed in that direction. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Man, I don't even know. That story about the couple in Burley charged with injury to a child, that's... I hope and I pray that child is going to be put in an environment that cleanliness and learning to appreciate what a good, wholesome life can be. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I got a problem with this whole ordeal, where the state has voted, the people have voted to say that we don't want it in our state. How can the federal government come in and do otherwise?
Okay, stop, Kilt Man. Yeah, you're right. But what happened with Proposition 8 in California?
I don't know.
Well, the same thing.
One of those things that...
No, wait a minute.
The Constitution says that the states have the final say-so.
Yeah, but wait a minute. That's my point. Proposition 8 in California, 81% of the people said that gay marriage is wrong and the marriage should be between a man and a woman, and they were overridden, they were downtrodden, they were thrown in the garbage, and look what's happened.
Well, like I said, that's where our state government's got to say, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but whoa!
You guys have no authority to tell us what we got to do in our own state.
Here you have a major problem. You've got the Supreme Court's order lifting Justice Kennedy's stay effectively allows same-sex marriage in Idaho as soon as the Ninth Circuit Court directs compliance with the decision. And the governor fought this. I have talked to him personally about it on the program, and it undermines the fundamental states' rights. Those are Butch's words exactly. He's against it, but right now their hands are tied because of the Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit Court. That's where we need to point the finger of blame.
Well, I agree. I'm not pointing the blame at the governor or anything like that. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not pointing it at them. My thing is, like I said, our people voted. It's in our state constitution.
That's right. That's right.
That says no. And at that point, federal government has no rights, rules, or anything to say otherwise.
Well, let's take it one step further. And caller number 2, don't go away. I'll be right there. Let's take it one step further. What about in Houston, Texas? They're superseding our Constitution. They're acting like a Gestapo in Nazi Germany. And this lesbian mayor is saying to all the pastors in the city of Houston, you will submit all your sermons for perusal before Sunday, and you will not preach them unless we say it's okay. My goodness, Kilt Man, what happened to our free speech? And what happened to the Bible?
That's the thing. The few are controlling the many. We've got a problem here. The few are controlling the many. They are in control right now, and unless we stand up and say, kiss off, it ain't going to happen.
There you go.
And we've got to just flat out say, no, we're not going to do that.
There you go.
You don't have any right. It's a separation of church and state. You don't have any rights.
Next Monday on the program, we're going to have the Alliance Defending Freedom at 9:30, and this is the group of lawyers that are fighting this right now in Houston, Texas. And we're going to have firsthand knowledge from the lawyers on the scene fighting against this lesbian mayor. So don't forget that next Monday at 9:30.
I will not. I mean, it's just one of those things that, like I said, they're the ones that put it in there, separation of church and state. They are the ones that said that, not us. So guess what? Now they're breaking their own rule.
Well, there is no such thing as a separation of church and state in the Constitution. Those words are not found anywhere in the Constitution. And when you look at the First Amendment and you talk about religion, there also are the words prohibiting.
Well, I understand that.
Okay.
But the congressman and the president are the ones that put in separation of church and state. That's why we can't have all this other stuff in our schools and that.
Yeah, there again, it's a kind of a inferred addition that is not printed in the Constitution. But the problem is, most people in this country aren't smart enough to realize that.
Well, the thing is, that's just it. They'll adhere to it when they want to, but when they don't want to, the rest of us be damned.
That's right. Killed, man, I got to get the weather and another call. God bless you, man. Talk to you later. Thank you so much. Caller number 2, I'm going to ask you a big favor. Please stay on the line. I really appreciate your call. I'll be right there, I promise. Don't forget the weather is brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser. Oh, my goodness. Hey, she made me some business cards, and they're made out of little pieces of wood, and they are, I'm going to hold one up to the camera so Gina can see it over at the studio. They are fantastic. Wood burned on some stained wood, and just innovative ideas for promotion of your business. Mad River Laser, and they got the Carhartt jackets over there, and they can customize them with your business name and your name on them. Oh my, yes. 502 East Street in Rupert. Mad River Laser. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello everyone, Michael Rogers from Seventh Ranch. Well, we got some clouds, a little bit of sun, but we got some cooler temperatures, and I talked about it yesterday where we're going to start to see the daytime highs pretty much in the mid to upper 60s all the way through the weekend. 68 for the high today. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Still the weather you got.
All right, thank you very much, Mad River Laser. 502 East Street in Rupert, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. Caller, thank you for your patience.
Hey, Zeb, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
Good. Hey, I was just going to put my 2 cents in on this deal with the little boy. When I was going through all the court hoops and everything, trying to get custody of my little boy out of his mother's home, that was basically the same type of a setup. You know, they had filth and animals, and it was disgusting. The lady that come in from Child Protective Services says, you know, I wish it was the other way around. I wish she was actually trying to get full custody from you. She says, because then I could come in and do something, but where you're trying to just get your son, she says, I can't do nothing about the 6 other little kids in here in this filth.
Oh, my goodness sakes.
That's what the lady told me right to my face, and she says, we've had to come here several times because of complaints. We come, we look, we tell them, okay, you have 30 days to clean this mess up.
All right, wait a minute. Stop right there. Stop right there. Whoa, stop. Why in the world would they give them 30 days? Why not 30 minutes?
I have no idea. But that's what the lady told me from Child Protective Services, was that they tell them, okay, you need to fix this. We'll make arrangements to come back in 30 days. They come back in the 30 days. And, you know, hell, I mean, anybody can clean the house in 30 days, you know. Clean it up real nice. They come in, they look, say, oh, yeah, you know, it looks like you've done a lot of cleaning. Everything's okay. We've got so many, and the lady told me, she says, we have so many kids that are in the system right now. We can't just go into every system that we go, every call that we go on. We can't just go in and take the kids away.
Oh, my goodness.
Because we have more kids than what we have foster homes or places for them to go.
You see, I would not make a very good judge, because if this went in front of me, I would haul out a stopwatch, and I would tell these 2 worthless human beings that have been arrested, I would say, okay, we are going to give you 30 minutes to clean up this house, and it better be spick and span. For every minute that you're over the 30 minutes, that will be an additional time period in jail.
Well, you're a lot nicer than me. I still think, you know, kill them all and let God sort them out.
Well, you know, I don't want to get into the violent situation, but I will say this: when it comes to kids, and it comes to a bar of soap today at the grocery store is still pretty doggone cheap.
Well, a guy can make it at home for
there you go.
Mad if you couldn't.
There you go. Caller, and I do appreciate
the incentive and do it.
Amen. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see.
You know, I'd put them up in front of the bench and I'd say, okay there, Mr. and Mrs. Filth. You've got 30 minutes, and we're going to have a coin. I wouldn't want to be the guy that the court appointed to go out and watch this, because I understand from the newspaper story that the overwhelming odor would knock you off your Tony Lamas. But you got 30 minutes. Get to work. And then after that 30 minutes, if it doesn't pass inspection, we're going to make you do it again and again and again. And it never will be dirty again. There is no reason. Nobody's going to call me and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. There's no reason to live in filth like that. None. Don't forget. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, have you been there? What a great place. 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. And they've got a bakery over there that just is so wonderful. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls. Makes your mouth water. I'll tell you, everybody that's eaten her cinnamon rolls said, oh, wow, they're good. You better check it out. Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Breakfast, lunch, or supper, they're waiting to serve you at Sophie's Chatterbox. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes.
There is a petition out there from, I think it's Liberty Action, that is asking for people all over the country to sign, and when they reach 50,000 signers, they will send it to Congress to ask them to close the airports against Ebola coming into the country. Do you want me to send you a copy of that?
Yeah, send a copy of it. I did talk to some people back east in New York on this subject, and there were supposedly petitions going around LaGuardia and JFK, Boston, Massachusetts, Logan Airport, and others to permanently close down any of those flights. And now, if you'd send that to me, Linda, I'd very much appreciate it.
I will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. This idiocy with the Ebola crisis, it doesn't have to be a crisis if it would have been handled correctly. Now you're saying, oh, you know more than anybody. No, I didn't say that. But what I am saying is I've talked to a lot of the experts in Atlanta and other locations of this United States, and all of the medical people I've talked to a person, said that confinement in Africa was the main key, and secondarily and down the ladder would have been to close off the airports and all the other ports of entry and everything else. It wasn't done. It wasn't done. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh my, look at the different tread designs, the different types of driving, and they've got all the tires on sale. All you have to do is just go in and explain to them, well, I do this, I do that, I drive here, I do that, I stay over here, I drive here in the wintertime, and they'll give you the best information on the purchase of the new tires that are best for your driving. Yep, you better believe it. They are the pros, and they also are the very best in brake service and front end alignment, shocks and struts, and of course batteries. Batteries, got to have a good battery. Stop in and see any one of the locations. Lane in Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, good morning.
Yes, when people are so lazy, slothful, that they are literally find no reason to live other than whatever stimulation they get from their phones or their computer or their TV, as long as there's food and the TV, it just shows you the decay of our society.
Yeah, well, Randy, how could, and really you're going to have to help me on this one, how could any adult lay his or her fat fanny on the couch and eat Cheetos and watch television when you've got all that filth in your home and a 4-year-old just absolutely living in it?
Well, it's beyond belief, but, I guess I haven't seen it to a terrible degree, but, you sometimes you see it on TV in this hoarders thing, and I don't know, Zeb, but I just know that we take our country for granted, we take freedom for granted, we take opportunity for granted, and if you don't appreciate the blessing that you have been given, however you believe it came, whether or not it's from Heavenly Father or living in a free country, it's one or the other, and those are all both given to us by Heavenly Father, then you will not get any more, I don't believe. If you don't appreciate what you have, how will you deserve any more? But when you couldn't give a you-know-what about nothing, you get what you get, man. And this is the reason why people say, well, there ought to be a law.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to go in there and take care of it. Yeah, in this case they do. But this is the reason why we end up with more government than we deserve because of irresponsible people who do this kind of thing.
I got to run to the news, but that's an excellent way to state it and end it for this hour. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. God bless you. Yep. I hope they throw the book at those two. We'll be back in about 6 minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor, all 7 locations, along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I got to tell you, folks, that getting on the route service where they come by with those big trucks once a week and take all of our garbage, it is, what's the best word? It's relaxing to know that they're going to be there and the garbage is gone. They do a great job, and all you have to do to get on the route service is call them at 734-6969. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Get a hold of them today. Want to remind you, too, that our dear friends, hello, Joel Heward, manager of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, and remember this number, please, 436-5636. Family place. Their family lives there with very flexible hours to serve you. That's it. Serve you. They're very concerned, and when there's the passing of a loved one, they know you're going to need help right away, and they can help you at Hanson Mortuary. Number to call, 436-5636. Always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we have a very dear friend of mine from Colorado come on the program, and in answer to your question that you emailed me about America's most important story, my response to your question would be, Doug, you should have been listening first hour. That was the lead and the key story for the first hour regarding the lesbian mayor of Houston.
I'm glad to hear it was. Unfortunately, like I've told you before, I can't get your show anymore online, so I don't get to hear what you're talking about. But,
well, we're going to all chip in and buy you a better computer.
No, it's not the computer. It's the software required, and I don't have that software. But regardless, I'm glad you're talking about it, because the idea that pastors are being subpoenaed, getting court orders sent to them to turn over what boils down to freedom of speech is unheard of in America, and I'm really glad you're talking about it.
Doug, there is no way that any pastor, and I want to say this up front, okay? You may not agree with this, but that's what a talk show's about. It's a pro and con of the situations and maybe a disagreement or two. But there is no pastor worth his salt of climbing the steps to the pulpit that should ever consider turning in a sermon?
Well, I guess I would say two things. I in spirit agree with you, but on the flip side is turning in a sermon really is no violation of anything biblically, but it is a violation of, it may or may not be a violation of his rights. You know, the mayor's out of line for, and the court's out of line for issuing the subpoena.
It steps on the Constitution, Doug.
What they should do is they should mount a legal campaign with a countersuit and go after the city in a federal lawsuit, because this is a federal issue. And I think that if we see religious freedom fail in Houston, because this isn't just, let me restate that, Zeb. If we see First Amendment fail in Houston, it will fail across the nation. It's already been infringed upon by our federal government, and this needs to be stopped. And people who don't understand that it's not just about religious freedom, it's about your right to speak and think what you choose. If people don't understand that, and that we need to stand with anybody who is under attack for that, then they're wrong. We should be mounting a legal assault against the city of Houston on this, I believe.
Well, already, my dear friends that are on this program, every Monday, the Alliance Defending Freedom, those are the attorneys that have jumped in and are already free of charge, gratis, helping to serve the pastors in the greater Houston area. And I personally am going to lend support after this program to call down, and I'm going to try to get Steve Riggle. He is the senior pastor of the Grace Community Church, and he was ordered to produce all the speeches and sermons that he has written over the last month to Mayor Annise Parker, and he has refused, and I say God bless him for not honoring Gestapo tactics.
Well, I would agree. I'm a regular guest on the Sam Malone talk show down there in Houston. It's the biggest talk show in Houston. And they brought this story to light back in June, before they actually were subpoenaing pastors. See, what people need to understand is this is part of a law that the mayor forced through in June that has been fought now. The citizens didn't realize what was going on, and the law protects sexual predators. It says that you're allowed to use whatever facility, locker room, changing facility, restroom, whatever, of the gender you feel best represents you. And so if you wake up in the morning, Zeb, and you're living in Houston, you feel like a woman that day, you can go into the YMCA and go to the locker room and use their showers along with all the women and girls.
That is the same law that...
It's written in such a way that the question that has arisen is that if, let's just say that Deanne was a concealed carry licensed citizen of Houston, and she was in the YMCA locker room, and she saw some pervert come in like this, and if he started to go after some girl and she pulled out her gun and shot him, she'd be the guilty one as a criminal for violating his rights to use that locker room.
See,
and that was the start of this whole thing. And now, because conservative groups led by Sam Malone, this talk show host down there, have challenged this and gone after this, they brought in a petition. The city rejected the petition. So now the city is taking the next step with this subpoena to try and find out who's against them. And the subpoena requires them to turn any sermons and speeches that talk about, and this is interesting, not just homosexuality, not just gender identity, but also that talk about the mayor. So it's obviously very personal, and I really think that it shouldn't just, I hope the Alliance Defending Freedom and anybody else who's involved isn't just defending these pastors. I hope they're taking the aggressive approach of going after them with a countersuit, because I think your best defense is a good offense, and I think that's what they need to do.
See, now, this law that you're talking about down in Houston is not new, Doug. It's not new at all. As a matter of fact, the same garbage and filth, it was implemented in various cities and towns here in the state of Idaho. And Pocatello, when they put it to a vote, they rejected it on the voting, and there were other communities that did accept it. So this is not new. It's not a new concept. But I'll tell you what, it's growing like a cancer. And now, better than ever before, is the time to stand up if anybody has any morality left, spit in their eye, form coalitions of power, and go after these perverts.
Well, they should be, and the citizens of Houston and others who are willing to travel there should be putting on demonstrations, mass rallies, protesting. This is huge news. I put a blog post out about this morning, as you know, that says it is the most important story in America. ISIS, Ebola, all these other things are important, but nothing trumps our First Amendment rights. Not one single thing, because if you lose the right to think as you choose, then you've lost all your rights.
Well, Tony Perkins, the head of the Family Research Council, made this quote, and I have it in front of me. He says, "I predicted that the government would one day try to silence American pastors. I warned that under the guise of tolerance and diversity, elected officials would attempt to deconstruct religious liberty. Sadly, that day arrived sooner than I even expected."
Yeah, I read the quote, and I had to think back. My pastor actually said that, and I know many pastors have, back 30 years ago, that it was coming, and we better watch out for it because America was falling. And, part of the problem, Zeb, is that Americans don't realize how far we've fallen. They think it's the same old country it used to be, and it's not. Americans themselves are not the moral people we used to be. We find ourselves, and this is what's ironic about this whole situation. This is about homosexuality, and people are speaking out and saying, this is wrong, we shouldn't allow gay marriage or whatever, and certainly that's what the Bible teaches, and I agree with it. But why aren't we also speaking about all the other immoral acts, such as the promiscuity among heterosexuals and all the other things that tear down our society? This is the reason our society is in so much trouble, is because Americans on the whole have abandoned morality, and that's why God has removed his hand of blessing from America, and we're in the trouble we're in.
Doug, I agree with you, and I think you said it very succinctly, but a very layman's phrasing question would be, why? Why have we turned into this conglomerate, if you will, of people that no longer care, no longer raise their eyebrows and say, whoa, what's going on here? Why have we become so naive and so slovenly about protecting family and moral values in this country?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I trace it back, and I lay it on our generation, the baby boom generation, because we are the ones who first started to turn against traditional values. Not all of us, but our generation. We saw the 60s radicals who now run our country. Everybody started to question everything and make everything about narcissism. And we've become so self-centered as a society that we really have abandoned morality. And everybody's more worried about sitting at home and playing with their Xbox or watching their TV show or doing something for themselves instead of doing what's right, serving their community, serving fellow man, being involved in their church, getting involved in their government like they should be. And it has been a slowly creeping thing over the last 40, 50 years, but we've seen this whole thing degrade to the point where now we have to face the consequences of what's happened.
Just remember this phrase, and I'm going to get back to it in 30 seconds. I've got to do a commercial. Turn the other cheek. I'll be right back with you. Doug Johnson on the line. Stand by. Don't forget Fred Wood, our dear friend, Representative Fred Wood, running unopposed for representative in District 27. Fred is the chair of the Health and Welfare Committee and on the Resources and Environment Committee, and he listens. He works hard for the people of District 27, protecting Idaho's water and creating a positive economic environment. This man is good. Fred would like to thank everybody who's voted for him in the past, and he's encouraging everybody to get out and vote on November 4th and vote yes for the constitutional amendment. Absolutely. Paid for by Fred Wood for House seat number 27. Those words I gave you just a minute ago, why, Doug? Why have we gone away from that principle?
I think we've become, frankly, selfish. And what's interesting, Zeb, is that I think our pride gets in the way. We have this attitude, you're not going to tell me what to do, you're not going to treat me that way. And so our humility is gone. We don't think that way anymore as a society. And I think that's really influenced a lot. And we have to remember, too, that when that was said by Jesus, Jesus was a Jew, and he was teaching in a Jewish society. And a slap or striking somebody on the face was among the most demeaning and contemptuous acts that could happen to somebody who was Jewish. So it was a huge thing to say, turn the other cheek to somebody. And, it's not even nearly as offensive to us as it was to them. And yet Jesus was saying, in spite of all your pride, of all these things that you may think are terrible, turn the other cheek, and we don't do that.
Yeah, but there's where you and I are going to have a divide right here, a chasm, if you will, the size of the Grand Canyon. I believe that Christianity has turned the other cheek far too long. I believe that Christianity, quite frankly, now today, as far as all groups, all entities, all politics, everything that's trying to absolutely diminish or completely erode Christianity, it's time not to turn the other cheek, but it's time to go on the offensive. We have to, or Christianity will die. There is a time when you have to rise up and stand up for God's word, and I think now is the time more than ever.
Well, I agree, but we also have to remember that Jesus strongly resisted evil that was directed against others, especially his Father, as when he cleansed the temple of those who defiled it by, being money changers there in the temple. But he did not resist by personal vengeance any evil directed at himself. So when someone attacks our right to dignity, Jesus taught, we are not to defend that right by retaliation. We are to defend injustice against others and against situations, but not against ourselves personally. This situation is an injustice against our religious freedom, so we should defend it. We should stand up. If it was just a personal attack, one person attacking another, then that's when turning the other cheek comes in. But otherwise, we have the right, and we should stand up and stand up very strongly against it. And I think that this is why it's so important. And we as citizens, and I'm speaking to people even who aren't Christian, all citizens should be defending this, because it's important to remember that they go after people a group at a time. Right now they're going after Christians, but that's just the first step. And so we need to stop this before it goes any further.
Doug, I'm not ashamed or at all intimidated by what I'm about to say, because I believe it. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it. I think many of the pastors today and clergy, the younger generation of the clergy, have been cowed into doing what the government has kind of parlayed to them that they must do, and they can't step out of bounds, etc. And I think in many cases the clergy has lost their courage.
Oh, I think so. I think so. And one of the reasons, I think, is because there's not been a price in America to have faith for a long time. We have had freedom for so long, we've forgotten the price. I've recently met somebody who's actually the brother of a friend of mine. I'd never met him before, and we were talking. He spent some time working in China and teaching in China, and he's a Christian, and he talked about how pure the church is there, because just becoming a Christian in China is a risk of your own life.
That's right.
And we talked about the fact that when there is a threat to your own life, you have to make a decision. It's a life or death decision. Your decision is very serious. It's very easy to call yourself a Christian in America, whether you are one or not, because there's been no price. As persecution mounts, and I believe it will get worse personally, as it mounts, what you will see is more and more people walking away and saying, I can't stand to that. I'm more concerned about protecting myself than I am about standing for what I supposedly believe.
I think it's going to, in the Houston area, it's going to come down to, and I'm anxious to talk to the lawyers with the Alliance Defending Freedom, but I think it's going to come down to a standoff and a stare-off as to the pastor saying, no, I am not going to submit my sermon. I believe that Romans 1:27 is God's word. I will preach that. I will not adhere to your humanist secular ways, and I am willing to go to prison and fight you. And then I think it's going to take congregate members and people in general, just like you said, to ask for a recall of the mayor, show their strength, and start to put things back in the proper perspective. I agree with that, and I'm going to stand behind what I said.
Well, I bluntly, Zeb, I don't think there's any doubt that what you say is correct, or that it should be stood behind. This is of real interest to me for many reasons. One of which is I have family in Houston. My sister lives in Houston with all her family, and this is right on her doorstep. And so I have essentially a direct contact with somebody. She's very involved in the Christian community down there. So it'll be very interesting to hear how they react and what they do. But this is critically important. And like I say, and I think we can't say this strong enough, it's not just about Christians standing up for Christians. In the blog post I wrote this morning, and I did it once before in another post, but I quoted Martin Niemöller from Germany, the Lutheran pastor who fought against the Nazis. And I'm sure you remember the quote where he said that, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist, then the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. And he goes through all these different things, and he finally says that then they came for me, and by that time nobody was left to speak up.
That's
the point is we must stand up for anybody whose rights are threatened, and it's really important for all of us to stand together, because our government has to get back to the point where it fears the people, and the people don't fear it.
Doug, I've only got a couple of minutes left, but the point I'm getting at is I don't care if it's a Baptist church here in southern Idaho, if it's Presbyterian, I don't care what denomination. All people, all leaders of all churches should send letters of support and calls, telephone calls, to various people in the Houston area and let them know that they're supportive. It's a conglomerated effort to let the administration in Houston know that they're wrong.
Well, I would agree with you, but I'd say two more things, Zeb, real quickly. One is I think we need to be willing to pledge financial support, because we're going to have legal bills that are going to get very expensive before this is over. And number two, I think it shouldn't just be a matter of a Baptist supporting a Presbyterian or a Lutheran supporting a Mormon or something like that. It should be a Jew supporting a Christian supporting a Muslim, anybody who's threatened, an atheist supporting somebody, or us supporting an atheist. If your First Amendment rights are being threatened, we all need to stand together no matter what our belief system is, because it's about freedom of belief more than just a particular religion being attacked. Right now it's just Christians, but that will spread.
And what I'll do is, after next Monday's program, I'll make sure that we get a clip of the show and sent back to you so that you can understand what was said from their lawyers with the Alliance Defending Freedom fighting for the pastors in the Houston area, just to keep you up to speed as to what's been said right on the air. So I'm going to stay in the middle of this, and believe me, they've got this old German teed off.
Well, I'm glad you are, and I hope more people around the country get that way too. I agree with you entirely, and I will look forward to getting that clip because I would like to hear it.
Doug, real quick, I want to ask you, how's your health doing? We're all concerned. We've talked about it, and I hope everything is looking on a brighter side.
Well, we're taking it a day at a time. That's all we can do. Doctors are trying to stay on the front side of this thing, and a step at a time. We don't determine our days, and I long ago accepted that. That's fine. My greatest concern, as you know, is that I can be on this earth long enough to care for my family who needs me, and that's my only concern. But your prayers and friendship, Zeb, and your wife Deanne are absolutely coveted. You are very special people to me, and while it may not be that we ever get a chance to meet in this life, I know we're going to spend some time in heaven reminiscing and talking about a lot of things, because you've been such a dear friend, and I really appreciate that.
All right. Well, Doug Johnson, I want you to know that prayers are with you, and thank you for being so gracious to come on our program every Wednesday. I look forward to it. My dear friend, take care, and I mean this. God bless.
Thank you, Zeb. You have a great week, and God bless you, too.
Thank you very much. Doug Johnson in Colorado, very, very dear friend. I'm a little tentative to say too much because I don't want to embarrass Doug and say things without his permission, but Doug has gone through some real trying times with skin cancer that has developed into some real bad problems. And we wish him the very best and God's blessings. And I would certainly ask my friends out there in Radio Land to keep him in your prayers. He's a very, very nice man. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Now, here's the bottom line. Write the number down. Write the number down right now, 678-1191, 678-1191. I can tell you all about their services. I can tell you all about their great people. I can tell you all about their great exercise programs. I can tell you all about their pool with the hydrotherapy. I can tell you all about the staff that grew up here and studied hard to know what to do to help you. I can tell you all of this, but you, if you need help, had better go over there and make an appointment. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number, 678-1191, helping you get back to being you. Oh, my goodness sakes, we've got another guest on the line momentarily, and did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you go, what? Huh? What did he say? Well, I'll tell you what. If your hearing is being diminished, and you don't know why, you'd better get a hold of Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids today. Christine Pickup, what a nice lady, and she is so smart about this subject. Doctor of Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. And the number, now I'm going to say this nice and loud so everybody can hear it, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Have your hearing checked. And they've got hearing screenings right there at the office, and she can help. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Okay. Also, I want to remind you real quick about our dear friends, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. I know I'm gathering things together here, but I have to because I'm a little bit behind this morning. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, they are dedicated and responsive to your needs, and believe me, they're very devoted to serving others, and that means you. With the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, get a hold of them today. Call for an appointment, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and I've been really interested in having this gentleman on our program. Doctor, and I'm going to say his name, and if I say it wrong, I want him to correct me because nobody likes to have their name mispronounced. And Dr. Ivan Eland, the author of the book called Recarving Rushmore. Good morning, Doctor. How are you?
Good, and you've got it exactly right. That's how you pronounce my name.
All right, sir. Well, you can call me anything you want to, but just not late for dinner, okay?
Okay.
All right. Tell me a little bit about this book, Recarving Rushmore. I got to tell you something, Doctor. When I was paging through and perusing through some of the notes of different people I wanted to have on my program, it really stuck out, and it really grabbed my attention, Recarving Rushmore. How did you come up with that title for your book?
Well, it's a metaphorical title, and the reason I did was because I looked at the polls of political scientists, journalists, and historians, and they, in conservative publications and in liberal publications that have rated the presidents, and surprisingly, and even astoundingly, the liberal and the conservative rankings of presidents came out pretty closely. They weren't identical, but they were pretty close. And so that got me to thinking, well, how would the founders rate the presidents if they had been around to see them? So, and of course, the founders had intended a political system much different than the one we have. And that is to say they meant the Congress to be the dominant branch and the executive to be the enforcer and the executing the laws, and a very narrow role for the executive, unlike the imperial president that we now have. Also, the president was supposed to be the commander-in-chief of the forces on the battlefield, not the commander-in-chief of society, as we've seen by some of our post-World War II presidents have really believed that they were the commander-in-chief of the United States, and that's not true. That's not what the founders intended. So I decided to rate presidents based on whether they fulfilled this constitutional role or tried to, and also whether they stuck up for small government both at home and abroad, and whether their policies promoted peace, prosperity, and liberty. The people who rate presidents, and that usually is historians, political scientists, and journalists, they have several biases. One is charisma. They fall for a good speech. JFK on the left, Reagan on the right. We have the fall for activist presidents, people who are doing something where sometimes it's just better to avoid doing something like Eisenhower did many times. he was an active avoider, and I think he was a very good president. I think historians are slowly beginning to realize that. And the third bias is we give big points for presidents who served during a crisis or a war, and of course war is the ultimate crisis. But we never stop to think, well, did the executive's action contribute to the reason that the war started, or could they have avoided the war by some other means, such as diplomacy? A war is the failure of diplomacy, and sometimes we congratulate people who conducted wars and we neglect presidents. For instance, Martin Van Buren was a president. He served for 4 years. He avoided 4 wars during that period. And so why don't we give credit to presidents who keep us out of the conflict? Because war is almost universally a bad thing. If you can't avoid it, you probably should, unless the stakes are really dire and you need to get into it. But we've lost that, and the founders believed that because they realized that war really undermined liberty, and standing armies undermined liberty. And so they were very wary of militaristic monarchs of Europe who went to war on a whim and dumped all the costs and blood and treasure on their citizens. And I think, the current way we do things, we've been a perpetual war since 2001, and one has to really ask ourselves whether, there isn't some other way to deal with these continual crises rather than just simply using U.S. forces all the time.
Let me ask you this, Doctor, and please do not be offended. I'm just being very blunt when I ask this. Different times, different circumstances, and you developed a one-man's kind of a criteria, a checklist as to whether they were good or bad. Isn't that kind of ego-centered on your part to lump them all together and say, well, this is bad, this is good, and not weigh in all the different times of history?
Well, I tried to evaluate presidents at their times. For instance, Eisenhower, of course, did nothing to repeal the big government of FDR and Truman, but of course, he was president, and he did a pretty good job in the 1950s during his period. So I tried to rate presidents at the time period. Now, you can say, well, I'm rating, from my own perspective, but what I'm trying to do is really do it from how the founders would have, rated them based on what the Constitution of the United States says. And of course, we deviate from the Constitution. Most of the federal government is unconstitutional because the stuff it's doing is not listed in the Constitution and violates the 10th Amendment. But so I think the founders would have wanted a smaller federal government. And one that was not as activist. So I'm not necessarily putting my own preferences on as much as saying, well, how would the founders have looked at this, given what they put in the Constitution and given the debates at the Constitutional Convention and some of the ratifying conventions when the document was ratified. So I also think that, the historians and the political scientists and the journalists, you see, they all have a bias. They just don't tell you what it is. Mm-hmm. And when you have people saying, well, this president is good or that president is good, and we get agreement by some of those people, they're all making intrinsic biases. I make my biases very clear on how I'm rating this. And you really can't escape a value system in evaluating presidents. You just can't do it. And I'm declaring what my value is and how I'm doing it out front. You won't see that in other polling from various or other books on the subject. They all go implicitly, well, FDR and Lincoln were good, and this is good, and they very seldom tell us why they were good, and they say people like, well, Jimmy Carter and Warren Harding, they were bad presidents, but they never really put their finger on exactly, what they did. I try to stay away from those biases, the charisma, activism, and getting points for being president during a crisis. And I try to focus in not on speechifying or what the president's image was, but what the policies actually did. And I come up with some very unusual results because a lot of times party affiliation really doesn't have much to do with the actual policies that the president pursued. And sometimes they even violated the principles of their own party when they did so. And oftentimes those are presidents which are the greatest presidents in my book. And I pay attention to policy. I don't get wrapped up in whether they had a sex scandal or this or that or whatever. I want to know what they did and how it advanced or retreated from the vision of the founders.
Let me throw this at you, Doctor, and then I'm anxious to hear your remarks. I would, in my own personal, very prejudiced attitude and opinion, rank Jimmy Carter at the bottom along with Barack Obama. I like neither one of these people. Reasons for Carter: I thought he did a lot to destroy agriculture in this country when he had the grain embargo. As a matter of fact, he destroyed my company back in those days. And his policies on a nationwide basis and a worldwide basis, I thought he was one of the poorest presidents ever to sit in the Oval Office. I think you disagree.
Yeah, actually I do. He was the first conservative president in the post-war era. Reagan gets all the credit because Reagan had all the rhetoric, but actually Jimmy Carter deregulated 4 major industries. And I agree with you about the grain embargo because I think that was an unwise move, although he really didn't have too many things to do. I mean, he's sort of in the same position as Obama now, and Putin annexes Crimea and, is meddling in eastern Ukraine. We're not going to go to war with Russia because Russia still has thousands of nuclear weapons. So what do? Well, sanctions are not a good thing. Sanctions very seldom work, and they're probably not going to work in this case. But the president, no matter what party they're from, they have limited options. And I think that was a mistake on Jimmy Carter's part because simply the Argentines and other countries simply replaced our supplies of exports. They were more than happy to, substitute. And I think, America as a whole, we go toward the economic sanctions route way too much, but we also go to the war angle way too much as well. And so Carter was trying to prevent escalation in the wake of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and that sort of thing. But I agree with you, that was a mistake. And there's no president that's perfect. But I think that, Eisenhower and Carter of the world post-World War II era were really for small government. Whereas Reagan actually was not for small government, and his policies didn't lead to small government. His rhetoric was much divergent from his actual policies. So I think and Carter was out talking against government, advocating small government, personal responsibility, even bringing faith back into politics, and he was really the forerunner of Reagan on all those issues. He was even increasing the defense budget before Reagan started doing so. So I think Carter is probably gets a bit of a bad rap. Eisenhower also, I would agree. Eisenhower and Carter are similar. Eisenhower was, he's been underappreciated by historians. They claim that he was just out there playing golf. Well, they've uncovered archives now that he was quite the manipulator behind the scenes, and he was manipulating to stay out of foreign wars. He only got into one little incursion into Lebanon. He did that just to prove that he could order that, but he didn't really want to. So I think he, for the most part, Eisenhower kept his powder dry, and also he was pretty free market as far as the economy, and of course we had prosperity because he was, but he had his faults too. But I think that both of those presidents are actually, despite their party handles, are very similar and should get a higher rating than some of the other presidents that we've had recently. I mean, if you can't tell a party affiliation necessarily as what they're going to do because you have George W. Bush, who claimed to be a conservative Republican, of course Obama, who claims to be a liberal Democrat. If you put their policies on a tea table opposite each other, they're very similar. And that's why labels and much of what you read in the press about what a politician is like or a president is like, you better look at the actual policies because they're much different oftentimes than the rhetoric.
I would add, Doctor, and we're almost out of time, but I want to have you respond to this. I would add, and I don't know if you've done it in your book or on your rating schedule of each president, but I would add the word charisma. I think charisma is absolutely important for any leader, any president per se, because quite frankly, in layman's terminology, the general public will follow them to hell and back if they have the charisma and the leadership qualities. And I would put right up there at the top of the list two presidents from both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, I think had the charisma to make people follow them anywhere, and that was Ronald Reagan and John F. Kennedy.
Well, I think, charisma can be used as a tool to a policy end state. You're supposed to be enacting laws or repealing laws if you want to make government smaller, or regulations or whatever, some sort of policy output. And certainly those guys had charisma, but I think their policy record is much different. Kennedy was fairly ineffective in getting his legislative program through. And you can also be an effective president even if you don't have charisma, and if you're a wheeler dealer. Like Lyndon Johnson didn't have much charisma, and I disagree with his policy, his Great Society program, because I think he made things worse, but he was probably the greatest legislative president in the history of the U.S. simply because he had been Senate Majority Leader. He did the wrong things with his skills, but he was able to get, what I mean by a great legislative president, he was able to wheel and deal. He didn't have a lot of charisma, but there are ways. Charisma, talking to the American people, getting them to follow you is one thing. Maneuvering in the legislature is another thing. Those are tools, but what my book measures is policy output. And that's what you really have to measure. What did they do? Kennedy had a lot of charisma. He really didn't do that much, except get into a nuclear crisis that he even admitted that he shouldn't have gotten into himself, right? And so, and Reagan, of course, I would argue that his policy record is not very good, even on cutting taxes. He was the worst of the post-World War II Republicans, and the taxes, the amount of taxes reduced. He was the second worst in adding federal employees, civilian employees. He, of course, increased government as a percentage of the GDP. And, he was the first post-war president in debt accumulation, and that's what we suffer from today. And he was one of the pioneers of that. So I think we need to look at the record of these presidents. And, I don't mind if they have charisma. It's just that we get mesmerized by Theodore Roosevelt's charisma or Reagan's or JFK's or Woodrow Wilson's or FDR's. And these presidents, we have to look at what they actually did. How do they use that charisma? If they're charismatic and they used it in a great manner, then great. If they're a legislative maneuver and they use that to make great policy, that's great too. But I don't think we should just evaluate presidents on this intermediate step of whether they have charisma, or whether they're good with the legislature, whether they're, a fine moral person or whatever. All that can help out, but the policy is the end goal, and that's what we almost ignore that too, because I guess it's not, we don't find it as interesting, or it's not as scintillating. We live in a media culture where everything has to be controversial and hyped up, and sometimes policy, the intricacies of healthcare reform or whatever policy you're looking at seem to be diminished compared to Monica Lewinsky type scandal or something like that.
All right, I've got 2 minutes left, Doctor, so keep your comments brief on this, but I've got to know. In my humble opinion, Obama is absolutely the worst president this country's ever seen for far left views and a complete stomping on the Constitution. Your thoughts?
Well, I think he's pretty bad. I rated him 34th out of 41, so that's pretty much near the bottom. I think we have to be a little careful in that, whatever president is president, whether it was Bush or Obama or whatever, who's ever president at the time, people tend to, the president is very real, and we have to put that into perspective. I have worse presidents. I think the worst president in U.S. history was Woodrow Wilson because he ruined the entire 20th century, and he's now working on the 21st. His policies were far-reaching, and they were almost universally bad. So there have been worse presidents than Obama, but I think certainly his massive pork stimulus, his financial regulation, which will make things worse in the wake of our Great Recession, and the health care debacle, both the policy itself was bad and the implementation was bad. Certainly there's a lot of that Obama has to answer for, and I don't think he's very good president at all. So I wouldn't say he's the worst, but he is down there.
I can't wait to read the entirety of the book and then have you back. Recarving Rushmore, written by Dr. Ivan Eland. And thank you so much for being on the program. I'll keep plugging it. I think it's an excellent book, excellent thought, and thank you for sharing it with us this morning.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, sir. Have a great day. Thank you. Recarving Rushmore profiles each United States president from Washington to Obama. And Dr. Ivan Eland. If you want more information on that, just give me a call. My goodness, I got to get to the weather here in just a minute. But first of all, don't forget, let's ride Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. All the snowmobiles are over there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, they got your snowmobile waiting for you. And all the accessories. Oh, wait a minute. You really are into ATVs, huh? Well, you just open the showroom door, look around, and they've got all the ATVs, all the different colors, all the different sizes, all the accessories. Oh, my goodness. They're waiting for you on Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. The place. Nice people. Nick and the whole crew at Let's Ride. Caller, please stay with me. Now, here's the deal. I got to do the weather real fast, and I'll be right with you. It's only 60 seconds, so stand by. Brought to everybody by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from 7th Ranch. Well, we got some clouds, a little bit of sun, but we got some cooler temperatures, and I talked about it yesterday where we're going to start to see the daytime highs pretty much in the mid to upper 60s all the way through the weekend. 68 for the high today. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Still know whether you got it.
Thank you, Michael Rogers weather. Lennox Home Comfort Systems at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they always sell warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I always enjoy your listening to you. You're a very dedicated, well-informed guest. My comment about the presidents is I like to say that Wilson really set it up. FDR was horrible. Carter, down the road, but I have to agree. Wilson, that was when, during that administration, we got the Federal Reserve come in. Yep. We got the direct election of senators. We got the the income tax amendment was pushed through. Yep. And the corporations, the tax-free foundations, all four things. The wealthy never paid taxes. The first year I was working, I only worked 3 or 4 months. Next spring, I paid just a little less taxes than Nelson Rockefeller. And that was quite a few years ago. They don't pay taxes. They have 2 accounts, and they only paid taxes on a very small amount of their income. And so, and then getting back to what's going on, the old saying is there's a lot of churches today are just preaching secular humanism. Reverend Wright would be the poster boy for that. Yep. And that's one of the problems we have with the churches today. But Christians, we better get up off our knees and go to work.
I couldn't agree more. Just real quickly, and Adrian, I've got to do another commercial before the break, but I think a lot of people like Dr. Eland, thank him for coming on the program. I thank him for writing this book, Recarving Rushmore. Excellent title for that book. And he goes in, and a lot of us that have taken history in grade school, high school, college, etc., we forget some of the shortcomings of the presidents that, in many cases, sold us down the river.
Absolutely. I was at Mount Rushmore not too long ago. What a great tribute to America. I'm not really that fond of Teddy Roosevelt, but certainly the other three up there were great patriots, and if we had those kind of leadership today, we wouldn't be in the mess today.
I agree.
But, when we took prayer and Bible reading out of school in 1962 and 63 with the Earl Warren Supreme Court, this country's been on a steep moral decline, and we're really paying the price.
I agree. Adrian, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, fall savings going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland and Burley. Oh, my goodness, they got power recliners at $3.99. You can get a king mattress for the price of a queen. Oh, my goodness. You better stop in. They've got a lot of dinette sets at prices that you cannot afford to pass up. And carpet, rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Yep, for the beautification and comfort of your home, you better think Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. These are really, really good people serving you at 459 Overland and Burley. Fall savings at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You know, one person that we've neglected since about 8:07 this morning is poor little Gina. How you doing, Gina?
Oh, I haven't been neglected. Trust me, I've been keeping myself busy.
Last night, or I should say yesterday afternoon, Deanne and I were over at the studio, and Gina gave us a tour of the big, bad, ominous computer.
And you guys got to meet Conway Kitty, too.
Yeah, quite a cat.
Yes, he is quite the character. And then, of course, the computer system, yes, you got to see that. And then we had a nice little chit-chat, and we talked about yesterday's events.
Yeah, and there was something that was said. We were standing in the engineering office, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And the cat was just about ready to bound out the door. And Gina said something very frivolous and unthought. She said, "Why don't you let Ruby in and meet Conway Kitty?" And I thought, oh, my Lord, the end of the radio station as we know it.
and your quick reply was, "Oh, no. That was, she would destroy this office and Conway at the same time."
Can you imagine Thaxton standing there with nothing but a hardware belt and a screwdriver? That's all he's got left.
Pretty much, and then he would have to reconstruct his entire office, which, by the way, there's a lot of stuff in there, and so he would have quite the mess to clean up.
Ruby hates cats. She will go to any length, even with no legs. She has a 1-inch vertical, and she will go to any lengths at any speed across any terrain to chase down cats. And that would have been it would have been Armageddon.
It would have been Armageddon. But here's my question. Has she ever gotten high-centered on anything?
As a matter of fact, yes. One of the hog panels out in the orchard, she tried to jump through one of the squares to go get a cat, and all you saw was these legs in midair, not going anywhere, and she was making good time, but not getting any ground.
Oh, poor Ruby. If she only knew how much we pick on her on the end.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. We've had trouble. We had an accident with her the other day. We took her for a ride on the four-wheelers, and she was doing good, and I had her clipped in one of the baskets to the neck, clipped so that she...
You had her tied down.
And a dog ran out and tried to get her, and she tried to jump out after the dog. Now, at 30 miles an hour, that could be very, very hazardous to a dog's health.
How far did she get?
Well, she kind of hung there for a few minutes, and then the collar slipped off, fortunately, and then she took after the dog. And Deanne, honestly, for a lady that is a mature lady, she really did a good job. I got to give her a lot of credit. She's in excellent shape.
Did she round up Ruby?
She rounded her up, picked her up, threw her back in the basket, and we hightailed it for home. But kudos to my wife. She's going to be running in the next Olympics in the 50-foot dog dash.
You've really put poor Deanne through the ringer since this entire week, haven't you?
Oh, man, that check deal. She was one mad little lady.
I can just visualize her and her reaction, and then your reaction, and I can see the whole thing playing out.
Best thing to do in her case when she's teed off, leave.
Exactly.
I'll see you in 6 minutes. Bye-bye.
You got it.
Oh, my, here we go. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, call them at 734-6969. Hey, before we introduce our guests, let's talk about the Chadwick Sports Grill and what their special is today at 139 West Main in Burley. Today they're having Navajo tacos. Now, I wonder, what's the difference between an Apache taco, Navajo taco, Comanche taco? What is a Navajo taco? Somebody help me on that. A Navajo taco with super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Hum, boom, 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 hum, boom, boom, boom. Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. What are you doing, Kelton?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds good, Navajo tacos.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
it's on a scone. It's a taco on a scone.
Oh, in a scone.
On.
How could it be on a scone?
You take a scone, you lay it on your plate, you put meat or chili and lettuce and tomatoes.
Would you speak up so we could all hear you?
Sure.
Okay. Idaho Fish and Game, Kelton Hatch, the ring leader.
Of what?
Well, that's better than saying the ringworm, but how are you?
You know, really good. It's hunting season.
You're happy.
I am.
Yeah.
It's been a really, really busy week, but, you know, it's fun. Get out and talk to people. Things have been going great.
So this is the time of the year that you can verify your paycheck.
Well, for the people that harvest,
why are you studying?
Well, you just never make everybody happy, Zeb. You should know that.
Oh, more than you would ever know.
Well, I don't know. In my line of work, I think, you know, we know pretty well that we're not making people happy sometimes.
You've got a certain percentage that want to do this and a certain percentage that want to do that.
You know, everybody that came through the check stations with deer were really happy, thought it would look great. Yeah. Others had opportunities and they thought it looked great. Then there's others that just didn't think it looked great.
You know, wait a minute. Those people, it's bothersome to me. The ones that went up there and didn't see anything or shoot at anything, it's always your fault.
Well, it is.
Yeah. Why?
Because we didn't have one tied to the tree, I guess. You know, no, it's no. I mean, there's.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that was in jest.
It is. Yes. It is in jest.
Don't call the office.
And so, well, it's just, you know, everybody has opinions. There's a lot of people that have lived here for a lot of years. They know the history of these areas. I mean, I think back about, you know, Idaho in the 70s and 80s when we only had 800,000 people instead of, you know, 1.7 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, we think of the good old days when there's less traffic, less people, more deer, and we were younger.
How the West was won.
You know, and so, but things are just tremendous this year in the Magic Valley. It's just, we had a buck that was over 242 inches killed in Unit 54. That's a lot of points.
That's my backyard.
Yeah, just right here. Great buck. We've had 3 400-plus inch bull elk. I mean, I'm talking Boone and Crockett.
That's my backyard, too.
There is. And then in 55, a friend just sent me a bunch of photos from bulls that were harvested over there that in the high 370s. I mean, I'm talking, we've killed over 10 to 15 record book animals this year.
Really?
Yeah, so far. And those are the only ones I know of. And so antler growth has been tremendous. There's lots and lots of critters out there. Fawn survival for the last 2 years has been tremendous. Last year was over 90%. Fawn survival, which is really high. Typically, we're in that 50 to 60 range.
Yeah.
And so lots and lots and lots of forkhorns out there in the bucks. Deer are fat like me.
Hey, man, let me tell you, I was just going to ask you, the forage has been fantastic.
Oh, it is. I mean, every one of we take a measurement on a deer sternum. It's called a xiphoid measurement.
Yeah.
And on the fat.
We do the same thing on this program.
Do we?
Yeah.
Wait,
fat potential.
You split my chest open and take a little measure.
I'm not going to go there.
Okay. And so, but we look at that. We're about 14 millimeters of fat to 16, which is typically around 7 to 8. So they're fat and happy.
Really?
The pronghorn, typically you don't find a lot of fat on them. But no, we just had a tremendous forage. We had a little bit of rain, if people didn't notice.
Oh, gosh.
In August, of some of the hay of mine that's still sitting.
Tell it to my haystacks.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I've got some for sale, by the way.
I bet you do.
For you. So, but no, the deer are fat. It's really looking good, and the bird season's good.
Oh, you're talking ducks.
I'm talking all, upland game. I do quite a bit of upland game hunting myself, and, the number of birds out there is really
What's the limit per day, by the way, on ducks?
On ducks, 7.
7 ducks.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But 2 hens, I think it is. I'd have to look because I don't do a lot of waterfowl hunting myself.
Why? Poor shot?
No, because I do a lot of upland game bird hunting.
You don't look like a Duck Dynasty.
Shaved.
Yeah.
I shaved. I'm more clean cut.
It would really scare the neighborhood if you came in with a long beard and long hair.
I'd look just like your neighbor.
Yeah, but Rocky's unique.
He is.
He's my buddy.
He is.
He's our answer to Duck Dynasty. Nobody could copy him.
Nobody could copy him. No.
Greatest guy in the world.
He is.
Yep.
And so, he is Duck Dynasty.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, I just don't do a lot of waterfowl hunting, but it's been really good. We've got a lot of local birds around this year. Numbers
How do you know they're local birds? Maybe they came in from someplace else.
Code stamped on their legs.
This is where they receive their mail. Yeah, okay.
And so, because we do nesting counts in certain areas. So we know that we had high success.
You guys are really scientific.
Well, it's, that's the thing. The other day I was sitting here thinking, at the check station, the things that we collect.
Yeah.
Just because
weird stuff.
Well, it is, and a lot of people don't understand all the different things. So I want to run
raccoons and
nope. Oh. We take lymph nodes of deer, elk, and moose throats, checking for chronic wasting disease. It's similar to mad cow disease. We take out of bighorn sheep. If you bring that in, we pin them. We actually collect DNA samples off of them so that we can make sure their tree splits.
Yeah.
And they're in their different populations. So it's just it's not one branch. We want to make sure we have that genetic diversity in that population.
Sure.
We collect blood, liver, and tissue samples from moose.
Speaking of which, I got into a rather heated discussion with someone the other day, and your name came up in the conversation.
Yeah, that makes me nervous.
Well, it should. You had said on this program, as a matter of fact, probably 8-9 months ago, that because of the moving in population of the moose, that possibly within the next year or 2 years, there would be a consideration of opening up a very small hunt for moose.
I would be willing to bet that there will be a moose hunt next year.
Yeah, see now, and this person said, no, expletive, never going to happen up there. And I said, you had said it on the air.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why are you hesitating?
Well, I'm trying to make sure. In one day, I've seen as many as 7 moose.
Oh, really?
Different moose in different parts of the canyon.
Yeah.
Not every person, but I bet 60 to 70% of the people that came through my check station had seen moose. I had pictures of 5 different moose shown to me from different drainages, all bulls.
Yeah.
Good bulls. They just killed a monster over in that Unit 55 Mount Harrison. It is a 49-inch wide bull, really big palms, real heavy.
So they are coming in more and more.
We got, I had one guy, you have to consider all of them. This guy seemed really legit. He said he'd seen 11 different moose.
And they like to be around water, don't they?
Don't
they like to be around ponds quite a bit?
Well, they do, but they're going to also feed away from a pond. They may be several hundred yards.
Like way back up here in 54 where I ran into that mad mama with 2 calves. Well, she was in the water.
Yeah. Well, they eat a lot of that type of vegetation and forage, and they're built for that. So
they're built to do whatever they want to do.
Yep, and they're going to take it if they want. If you don't want to give.
Hold on, we got a caller. You heard that moo? It wasn't the moose. It was a cow. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. I'm talking, caller. Go ahead.
Yes.
my wife showed me a picture of a moose on Facebook that was been colored like a pinto horse. Have you seen that, or you know anything about it?
A moose. Well, over in Soda Springs, just out of Georgetown, we have I guess it's a recessive gene, and we get a lot of albino moose over there.
Really?
White moose, and so a horse. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I'd ever seen one that looked like a pinto. The possibility of the coloring, I mean,
it could happen.
It could happen,
sure. Was it a moose from around this area?
The caller left.
Oh, the caller's gone. But, I've heard of that, though. Multicolored moose.
Yeah. I've seen the white ones. We actually had I had a friend send me here's your word, Zeb. Okay. Melanistic. Melanistic. But it's a black elk.
Really?
Yeah. Up out of Unit 44 is a black spike bull. He's got a bull tag up there, and he said, I've never seen a melanistic, or black.
Why don't they just say black?
I don't know.
It comes out a lot easier than melanistic.
I agree, but for some, I just used the word because that's what I was told it was.
Well, let's go through the list here. Opening weekend of deer hunting, so we've already passed that.
Well, yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, we had the 54. All our controlled hunts opened on the 5th. Then we had this last weekend. I worked check stations the weekend of the 5th. We checked a lot of nice deer through, lots of happy hunters. Happy hunters. And then in the next weekend, we had the check stations at all the other locations. Plus, we still had the Rock Creek and Shoshone Basin, and I was working out Shoshone Basin again.
And were they happy too?
It was. It was cold on Sunday, I must tell you. The wind blew just a bit.
Yeah.
But, we checked a lot of deer that day. We're looking at some of our general units, 56 and 43 has been just tremendous this year, as high as 34 to 38% harvest success in some of those, which is really high for a general hunt. And we only catch a percentage of the people coming out. And so, but it kind of gives us an idea on what the harvest is going to be for those units. And so, lots and lots of smaller bucks that are coming through. People are, looking for some meat and stuff like that. Are willing to shoot those. A lot of people are shooting those forks.
I want to go back to unhappy hunters. It's people complain about everything. What do some of the unhappy hunters say to you? Have you cut kind of a log on this?
Do you have a delayed button? So if I say it, you can hit.
Well, don't say anything negative or anything that you shouldn't. But how can they possibly blame you for not getting anything?
Management practices. They and I see everybody's got a different idea on how they want to hit.
But are you playing with the rubber ball or the horse?
There's a rubber ball and the horse.
And the horse. Okay.
The horse is balancing on the rubber ball.
I see.
But
one-trick pony.
One-trick pony. There you go. The things that people are complaining about, ATVs.
Yeah.
Get a lot of complaints. Too many trails. They get upset with people riding in the back of the pickups with firearms.
Mm-hmm.
They get upset that we have too many permits up there. They get upset that we harvest does. They get upset that these are small percentage of the people.
But they would have been much happier had they had something laying in the back of their truck.
Typically.
Yeah.
But every once in a while you get a few that come through even disgruntled with game in the back.
Some people just like to gripe.
Yeah.
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 Waterfowl, it must be good. There must be an overabundance of ducks and geese.
Just poor shots, because you live close to the lake.
Man, Deanne and I woke up, and I'll tell you, the other day, it sounded just like that cartoon character. What was it? Daffy Duck, and who was the guy that couldn't see good? Remember?
Elmer Fudd.
No, that wasn't Elmer Fudd. It was Mr. Magoo.
Elmer Fudd. Well, Mr. Magoo couldn't see.
Mr. Magoo couldn't see anything.
Gina knows that Elmer Fudd was the hunter.
Was a totally different cartoon.
Well, yeah, but he couldn't see.
But he didn't hunt.
Well, that's why, because he couldn't see.
Elmer Fudd was the hunter.
Elmer Fudd. What that wetted webbit.
Well, I think we're talking about ducks right now.
I know. That's the only thing I can remember Elmer Fudd saying.
Okay.
Give me a break. I'm old.
I'm sorry, Gina.
Don't apologize to me. I'm laughing right along with you.
No, come on. I was right, though. You always used to say, "Dwat that dwatted rabbit."
But no, that was just me out in your parking lot with my shotgun, making sure you was awake.
Oh,
waterfowl season.
Goodness. So you get 7 ducks.
7 ducks, 4 geese. Then we have a white goose season,
and 1 partridge in the pear tree. Okay.
So there's a lot of waterfowl, But we was talking about upland game. I was going to tell you we've seen coveys and had coveys of Hungarian partridge or gray partridge, as many as 150 to 200 birds in a single coveys this year. In my ventures out and about, lots and lots of ruffed grouse and blue grouse, really good hatches on those. Those are your forest grouse species. Things are looking really good. If your person's willing to venture across to 84 and over to south in southeastern Idaho, lots and lots of sharptail this year. Hatches were really good. Sage grouse season, lots of birds this year, and it looks like the chucker populations are going to be good. It's just going to be one of those banner years. Sportsmen will remember if they get out and get around, because upland game is good. Waterfowl is going to be tremendous, and deer hunting has been really good.
But now that leads us to the next subject. Saturday opens up a new hunting season for pheasants. How are they looking?
That's one of the ones I'll waffle on just a little bit. We're just, pheasants are just one of those fickle beasts.
There is quite a way. Pheasants are fickle beasts.
Well, it is, because they just really need. All wildlife needs habitat to survive. And they really rely on farmers and ranchers.
Yeah.
And poor farmers and ranchers more so. They need weeds, they need ditch banks, and we've got a lot of really good farmers around here, and therefore it doesn't help our overall pheasant population.
Okay, so it's down a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be about the same as last year, maybe up just a little bit. From our roadside surveys, we didn't get a really good. To tell you what a roadside survey is, all of us have different routes.
Hey, there's a pheasant.
Yeah, we drive them, get up, and we hit them right at daylight.
Yeah.
And we drive 5 to 10 miles.
You guys have got a tough job.
Well, it is. You leave my house at 4 a.m. and drive to Burley or Cassia County.
Hold
get there at 5:30.
The violin section.
I love it. Getting out there and you count the number of birds. This year, because of all the rain, we had a lot of crops in the field.
Yep.
A lot of hay, a lot of barley, and wheat that wasn't cut when farmers really wanted it cut.
Yeah.
So I don't know how solid the counts were this year, just because there's a lot of crops left in the field. Typically when we do our surveys, a lot of the crops are off. And so you didn't have as much filled or uncovered field to count. And so,
how long does pheasant season last? I forgot.
Till through, I think it's almost January 1. I was going
to say December 15th, but I'm wrong, aren't I?
Well, Cassia County, I think it ends just right after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then around January 1 in this part, there's a split season for the Magic Valley.
Are you a pretty good pheasant hunter? Are you a pretty good shot?
I hold my own.
Really? So you could go out and shoot a duck and a pheasant. You're kind of a real good multi-purpose hunter. You don't need a big target like a deer, elk, or a moose. No. You can hit those birds.
That's where I put a lot of my efforts in.
Really?
Yeah. I've probably harvested 25 birds so far this year.
Have you?
Upland game birds. And so
your refrigerator is full?
No, I got lots of kids that eat them. They came home for the weekend, my kids from college, and so we sat down, had a big feed on game birds, and
So what do you have on Thanksgiving?
Turkey or ham.
Why?
Or ham. Well,
Jeremiah Johnson, fill your freezer.
We usually throw a chunk of salmon in with it.
Chunk of salmon?
I like salmon.
I can tell. Okay, now, we've only got a couple of minutes, and we'll carry this through the next half hour, but don't tell me that you got a lot of poaching cases.
Every year, and this is just one of those really senseless years again. We're finding elk that have been just shot and left.
Just shot and left.
Shot and left.
What in the world is the matter with people?
And the thing is these often get blamed on hunters, but to me, they're not hunters.
Oh, no.
These are people that are out doing heavens knows what.
So they just shot the animal and left it lay?
Leave them lay. We had a bobcat that was shot and left, probably night shooting, probably calling, or something like that. We had a spike elk. We've got a couple bullets.
Whereabouts did all this take place?
We've had them at Thorn Creek. We've had them... we've had them just about every portion of the state.
Really?
In the last few weeks. It's some of it could be attributed to wounding loss, possibly, but most of the ones that we've investigated, we know the animals were shot and died in that area. Were shot right there because either location of brass or other things like that.
Yeah.
And so... I guess the plea and the reason I bring this up is if you see anything stupid or suspicious like this going on, contact your local police office, the county sheriff, or call Fish and Game. Or also, I brought the CAP hotline. It's 1-800-632-5999.
Or the regional office at 324-4359.
I'm impressed with you. You used to get that. And so, you're eligible for a reward.
Good.
500. A lot of times, CAP will double that. So, if we get a good case on somebody,
let me ask you: when you catch these people, what do they say? How do they act? What do they say? Why did they do it?
It's just, every one of them's different.
Really?
Some of them, and I've worked with sometimes the Cassia County prosecutor, a lot of times he'll send them to community service, which they come over and help work on fish and game projects.
That'd be a hard thing to do, wouldn't it?
It would be. Yeah. And some of the guys are great to work with, and others are tough to work with. And
you got a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, and it's just a multitude of things. Typically,
of the ones that have been fairly amenable to work with and everything, have they said, "Boy, did I make a mistake"?
Every one of them did, and most of it's peer pressure.
Yeah,
bunch of young guys getting out there screwing around.
Yeah,
and but we've also been writing quite a few citations over the last few weeks too because of hunting season, and I was going to talk about that a little bit. We've had these poaching.
I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's hold it until after the break.
Okay, that sounds good.
The citations, you
bet.
Said, right? Okay. We're with Kelton Hatch with the Idaho Fish and Game. It's that time of the month for them to come over here and sit in the studio and cause all kinds of havoc. And we're going to be back with Kelton Hatch in just a very few minutes, but I want to remind you too, don't forget our friends with Lennox Home Comfort Systems, and that's through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at, of course, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. You be sure and check out Lennox and Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Here now is the break at the bottom of the hour.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. We're on the home stretch. Cloudy day. You might get a sprinkler or two. You never know. By the way, Representative Scott Bedke, Speaker of the House, District 27, says, please go vote for the midterm election on November 4th. Scott, very concerned for Idaho and its growth and prosperity, and he also is concerned about the future of the United States, and he urges you to exercise your patriotic duty and vote on November 4th. And by the way, don't forget, vote yes for the constitutional amendment, HJR 2, paid for by Representative Scott Bedke of Oakley, District 27. We're having our monthly review with the Idaho Fish and Game, and that's, of course, with Kelton Hatch. And we no sooner mention his name than we have a caller calling in. Good morning. You're on the air.
Thank you. I can hardly hear you, Zeb, but I have a question. Are we going to have a wolf hunt, and are we hunting in this area here?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have him answer that over the air, okay?
That's fine.
All right. Thanks, Adrian. What about the wolf hunt, management, and anything going on in this area?
All the wolf seasons have opened since rifle season started, and we had a lot of we'll have a trapping season this year in 45, 43. We've never had a wolf harvested across the Snake River. We don't know of any established packs down there, but there is a season, so if people have a permit, they're more than welcome to harvest one.
All right, and I certainly hope they do.
Yeah,
that's the way I feel.
I've cut tracks, but I've never seen packs down south, and I don't know of any established packs because we haven't had any complaints of loss of sheep and beef cattle and stuff. And I guarantee, if we ever get a pack down there, we will have dead cattle, we will have dead sheep, and we'll know for surety that they're down there because they're just slower and easier to catch than an elk or a deer.
What about the mountain lion situation?
That's one of those things. It's really, according to our harvest statistics, we've got a viable population down there. And the only way that we really can monitor mountain lion populations is we had radio collars on close to, probably 100-plus deer a year down there for almost 15 years, 150 deer in the southern units. And we checked them every day. And when we got a mortality tone on one of those radios, we went in and checked. And we had a very small percentage killed by lions. We don't do that anymore, but we still monitor. We pull teeth from every cat that's killed. And typically, if you have all young coming in, or all old, or you don't...
Why do you pull the teeth?
Trying to age the population so that we have a good division. We want to make sure we got some old cats down there, some middle-aged cats, and some young cats. That means you got an old enough population down there to have reproduction. And when you kill young cats, if you're just killing young cats, or you're killing... and you have no old cats in the population, you know that you're probably harvesting it pretty hard, and that actually increases overall cat survival.
I see.
And so if you have some old cats in there, because toms are very notorious for going in and killing offspring of other toms. And so they kind of help control the overall population. And so you want to see that good breakdown, and that's why we try to do an age structure study on them all.
Who do you hire or have hired over at the Jerome office that sits at a desk in a back room, dimly lit, that looks at all these teeth?
Well, what we do is each of us,
You can tell age?
No, I pull teeth, and then we send all the teeth to a lab in Colorado.
Oh, really?
And they cut them and they age them.
No kidding. I hate dentists.
Well, I'm the dentist. Come over. I can pull a tooth. I can pull a premolar pretty quick.
Hey, there's something on the list here that I'm looking forward to hearing your response. You're saying transporting someone's game animal. That could be a little risky, couldn't it?
Well, this is what I was kind of talking at before the break, is some of the citations that have been going on.
Well, that deer, it belongs to my Uncle Bert.
Uncle Bert. Or probably one of the most common citations that's happened, and a lot of times this can be totally avoided, is having, if you've got somebody else's animal that you're transporting, you just need to have a note with the person's hunting license.
I was going to say,
saying,
"Hi, this deer belongs to Uncle Bert."
It's kind of like, hey, Zeb Bell, I give Kelton Hatch permission to transport my deer to said butcher, my license number, my phone number. That's all you have to have is a little note to take with you. The other thing that we've been, I was just going to talk about some of the things that have been going on, is shoot from the vehicle.
Oh, don't do that.
Shooting at animals that you don't have permits for.
Ooh.
We typically get a few of those people trying to help their kids out a little bit, shooting at a doe or something like that.
Don't do that.
Untagged game animals has been a big one this year. We've written about 5 or 6 citations that people are coming out of the hills and don't have their tags on, or they have their tags on and they're not validated. The only way that's a legal animal is if you have the full month and the day that was harvested notched out. Otherwise, it's an illegally tagged animal, and it's basically an illegal tag, or it's an untagged animal, and so they will be cited for that. And people are going, "Oh, I forgot to notch it." That's a pretty tough one, because if you remembered to put the tag on it,
you could have notched it.
Why didn't you notch it?
Yeah, really.
And so, we get a lot of those type of citations. So just kind of, we're not out trying. We don't have a quota. There's no quota. on permits, on citations or anything like that.
Oh, come on. You know that's the only way you can make it to Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah, everybody gets a nickel for every citation they write. No, and so it's just, we're just out talking. Most of my time that I'm out, I patrol at least once a week. I'm not a conservation officer, but my goal is just to visit with sportsmen and try to help them be successful. If they have questions on an area or they're not finding a game animal, pull over a conservation officer, talk to us.
Absolutely.
We hang out in that country.
They're really nice people.
Most of us, you bet.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah. I'm a handicapped person, and when I hunt, I can't shoot from my walker because I can't hold the gun up.
Uh-huh.
Now, you said I can't shoot from my vehicle either now?
Well, you can. You have a shoot from the vehicle permit, probably.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering. I thought maybe they'd change the law.
No. You can. There's allowances and special permits and decals for that type of thing.
There's also a deal there if you, since you're using a walker and things like that, you can go down and have someone go with you.
Yes.
And if you shoot,
I couldn't get one out.
Oh yeah, well I know, but if you shoot and wound an animal and you can't catch up to it, someone can get a special permit that's hunting with you, that if you do wound one, they can go on and finish the animal off and bring it back to you.
Yep.
And so we are trying to make as many, that was a deal that they put in place a couple of years ago. It's an idea that we got out of Wyoming, because Wyoming had that permit. I've actually got a good friend that he gets that permit every time he hunts with his son, because his son was in a tragic accident. He's doing better now, but if the animal does get away very far, he couldn't get to it himself, and so we have those permits in place.
It's kind of a special takings permit.
It is. It's to be able to help people that can't do it all themselves, and so there's a lot of options out there.
Jerry, I'll tell you what.
I wouldn't shoot one I didn't think would drop dead the minute I shot it.
Okay.
But if you ever
I don't miss. I have never missed yet in my life. If I aim at it, I'll kill it.
All right, well, Jerry, I'll tell you what. The main thing is, and I learned this on crutches, don't set the crutches down or the walker down and shoot a gun with high power, because you'll end up on the backside of your Wranglers.
I couldn't stand up if I let go of my walker.
God bless you, Jerry. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I never will forget the time I went to one of those rendezvous, and George Montgomery, you know George. Yeah, he gave me a great big Hawken. I think it was a Hawken.
Probably a 54.
Yeah. And I was shooting at a target, and he said I was not very much recoil. 30 feet backwards, sitting on my Wranglers, I questioned his integrity.
It's not very much better if you're leaning forward.
Oh, boy. It bent the crutches. What about a commission meeting in Post Falls? That's way up north.
Yep. We've got our commission meeting coming up. I've got the little deal here, right here.
Talk into the microphone.
Well, I had to find my little piece of paper.
Well, when you talk into your armpit, we can't hear you.
Well, I've got trifocals, and I have to really bend my head down so that I can see with the portion that sees at that angle. So sorry.
All right.
The Fish and Game Commission will meet on November 12th and 13th at the Red Lion in Post Falls.
You ever been to Post Falls?
I have.
Really?
Nice little town.
It is.
It's
a long way from here.
It's a long ways from here. But if you have any comments or questions or things that you want to, I try to get that out there. I know it's a long ways to go, but if you want something, you want to be able to speak your mind, Commission's a great place to speak it to.
You speak it here every month.
Part of it.
Limited portions.
Limited portions.
Hey, the next part of our category, we're going to be talking about fishing, and fishing is great. And what fun it would be to go fishing with Doug McGargle, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
He's in the middle of hunting right now. He's hunting with his little girl.
McGargle, if you're listening, why don't we try for year number 8? It's coming up in about 3 months.
I think he's taking you up there and using electricity.
I see.
As his fishing trip.
I see. Or he wants to wait till it's like January or February and say, hey, let's go ice fishing. And then I can say, hey, no thank you.
And so, but no, right now, fish are jumping out of the water.
Oh, Oh, really? Right in the boat?
Right in the boat.
Oh, my goodness sakes.
You know, Salmon Falls has been fishing it. It was kind of funny because I was down chucker hunting down by Oakley, and I'm driving back, and I'm looking around Oakley Reservoir.
Yeah.
And there's like boats everywhere.
Really?
And I'm sitting here going, man, the fishing, it was really good.
What are they catching?
Trout. Lots of trout.
Big trout?
Big trout. And they've been doing really good. But even as good as that's been, Salmon Falls Dam has just been phenomenal. Magic Reservoir's been phenomenal. Talking to one of my buddies, he doesn't hunt, he just fishes. And he's just been slaying the bass at Walcott and down at CJ Strike.
Really?
And he's just been having right down here at Milner also.
How come it's so good?
You know, it's just that time of year. Things start turning this time of year. We start getting a little cooler temperatures that you wouldn't have told it by the last week. That was getting cooler temperatures, but it is cooling down a little bit at night, so the water temperature's cooling down. Fish get real aggressive. They know it's going to be a winter, and they got to get their bellies full and get some fat on their backs, and so they get aggressive. And
you're talking about fish.
Fish.
I thought you were talking about you and okay.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to winter kill Zeb.
You're not going to. I've got a weather forecast to get in here, and it's brought to everybody by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. They sell taste one bite at a time, and everything they sell is guaranteed delicious. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers at the Ranch. Well, we got some clouds, a little bit of sun, but we got some cooler temperatures, and I talked about it yesterday where we're going to start to see the daytime highs pretty much in the mid to upper 60s all the way through the weekend. 68 for the high today. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Still the weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Open early, open late, and they are the best. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. You call Don and the crew and ask them or find out any information you want about your wild game, or if you've got a hog or a calf, whatever. They are your locally owned custom meat processor, selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. What's this? You're going to have an auction selling off a bunch of equipment and vehicles and everything?
We do. About every year, we, through our fleet program.
Ooh, that's hard to say.
Fleet program.
Yeah.
What we try to do is we found that we have a lot less repairs on our vehicles if we...
I've seen the way you drive.
I'm a pretty good driver. And so if we rotate them through the system at about 60 to 70,000 miles rather than running them.
So they're still in pretty good shape.
They are. And so what we do is we buy them at pretty good prices, and then we return them and we sell them back to the public. That auction is going to be on, I got to remember where it was at. Mm-hmm. You see, that's my problem. I've got a real short memory, Zeb.
Let me tell you something. It's noticeable.
It is. Okay, it's October 22nd. It's going to be at the Dealers Autos Auction at 3323 Port Street in Nampa.
Port? Like in P-O-R-T.
P-O-R-T.
Yeah.
The auction starts at 2, and they've got some ATVs, they've got travel trailers, they have boats. You can contact the auction at 463-8250 or go visit the internet website, and it's at DAAOFidaho.com. And you can view all the vehicles for sale. And so you can get a hold of that and look at it, and sometimes there's some fairly decent deals there, good trucks that have been well maintained. Okay. Some of them, are similar to farmers' trucks.
Yeah.
Ranchers' trucks.
Yeah, but that might not be such a bad deal, because if somebody wants something they can take up in the brush and they're not worried about whether it stays in tip-top condition, that's okay.
Yeah, there's a few scratch and dings on some of them. Others are office cars.
Automatic or manual?
Most everything's auto anymore.
Is it? Okay.
And they got some ATVs and some older boats and stuff like that. And so just letting folks know that they're out there, and if they're interested, get a hold of them. I'd like to buy one, but they don't let us buy them.
You know, we did a segment yesterday with Reese Widmeyer of Sportsman's Warehouse on being prepared when you go up in the hills hunting in case you get lost or in case you have to spend the night or whatever, and what you need to take with you. And I would imagine that you run into quite a few different cases where they are not dressed properly or have anything with them in case of an emergency.
It just baffles me sometimes, some of the things you see that's going on up there. But I mean, and then you have other people that are really well prepared. One thing that's really changed things is most of those areas you have cell service in the South Hills, or if you get on top of a hill, you can get cell service. So that's one thing I would recommend everybody hauls with them.
That's true.
Cell phone.
That's true.
Because you can get out. But it's like the other day, I ran into some poor guy, the whole front axle, the hub had broke off the front end of his truck. And so, you know, some things like that happen. But, I mean, just basic things. I was out in the Owyhees doing some work out there, and there's a guy, truck battery's dead out in the middle of nowhere, and he's the only one out there. If it hadn't happened along jumper cables, he'd have been, you know, he had a 30-mile walk in front of him.
But I can understand being out there by yourself, but, you know, it's always good to let somebody know where you're going and how long you're planning on being there.
Very, very true. And another thing I like taking with me is one of those little battery jumper deals. It's just a charger, and you can charge up there about $45. You can pick them up to $100, depends on how fancy you want to get. But you can just hook that onto your battery. If you happen to leave a dome light on or something, at least you're kind of prepared. But the big thing is you just need to have water. You need to know where you're at. Have good clothes on, sturdy shoes.
That's the thing, though. Elaborate on that a little bit. You've been an outdoorsman most of your life, and it's amazing to me, honestly, even when we go up on our ATVs, people will be up in the hills dressed like they're going to the beach.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, it's it's really, I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of folks that wear Levi's and stuff like that to hunt, but if it's in inclement weather later in the season, you know, cotton kills.
Absolutely.
It really does, because it doesn't wick the moisture away. I'm a big wool guy. I'm more old school than all this Gore-Tex and all that stuff. I've got a Gore-Tex jacket and things like that, but mostly I wear wool because wool is a wicking material and it's a lot cheaper than a lot of this other stuff, and you can pick it up and it keeps you warm even if it's saturated.
Yeah.
A pair of wool pants can be completely soaked and they still have some heat capacity to keep you warm.
They'll only weigh 9,000 pounds and you can't walk anywhere.
Yeah, but at least you're warm.
Yeah, you're warm while you're sitting there.
But, you know, another thing is I like taking candy bars.
But you see, these are all, and the thing that I really appreciate about Reese yesterday, we were talking about this, and they've got these kits basically all made up, very, very small, very lightweight, that aren't going to take up any extra manipulation to carry up in the hills, and they've got like a little poncho in there. They've got the little candy bars that you were referring to, and they got like a little flashlight, the fire starters and all that. Why go up there without that stuff?
It's silly. You know, I mean, on the most basic day, I mean, every year we have someone even lost in the South Hills.
Oh, and you know what? In fairness to people, a lot of times, especially when you get snow on the ground, it looks different than what it does during the summertime.
And you get a fog bank that rolls in, and you don't know which way to go. And
there you go.
No, I never leave, never get out of my truck, even on a bluebird day, without a flashlight, some type of fire starter.
Yep.
I usually throw a cell phone in.
And a gourmet meal for as big as you are.
Well, you know, I'm really into these, like, I had a buddy that did a lot of backcountry stuff, and all he carried regular food and stuff like that, but for his survival food, in case he was there he took Gainsburgers.
Gainsburgers?
Because guess what? You never eat those unless you're in a survival situation. I mean, you're just
Gainsburgers?
Hey, the thing is how many times do you put a candy bar in your backpack and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, you go, man, that candy bar.
The dog is sitting there next to you starving, but you're eating the Gainsburgers.
Hey, it's survival food. This isn't for this. That way you don't ever eat your survival food unless you're in a survival situation.
You're a weird fishing.
I don't do it. I take Cliff Bars.
Hey, honey, don't forget I'm going hunting. Buy me some Gainsburgers.
I usually take like a 5-pound tube of salami. Just go there and munch and sleep.
No, but seriously, you look at our bikes, our ATVs, and we've got everything on those. And it's not done just to...
Have you looked at yours lately? Your wife probably emptied the...
What do you mean? Looked at what?
Your package, your bag's on there.
I know exactly what's on those machines.
She pulls the spark plug cable, leaves you up
I know exactly what's on those machines because we only take what's necessary, but we've got like flashlights, extra batteries, knife, fire starter, all that with us no matter what. You never know what's going to happen.
No, you don't.
That's right.
You don't. And so
parachute cord.
That's
really good stuff.
It's nice and light and strong, and the tarp. I like taking a little blue tarp with me.
Got it. As a matter of fact, you can make a checklist, and I'll bet you I'm packing it. Really, I'm serious.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations for this big tire sale, and of course, the best tire value promise in the industry. Free peace of mind tire protection. If a tire is damaged beyond repair, they'll replace its value, and their work is guaranteed for the life of your tires, and free pre-trip safety checks. Say that fast 5 times. And don't forget they've got all the different tires for your cars, SUVs, pickups, the Terramax HT, the Wildcat AT2, along with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, everything, and batteries. Got to have a good battery. Weather's getting colder. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Yeah, seriously, I am prepared.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. No, it's that way we won't get a call at 10, at 2 a.m. saying Zeb's not here and he's going to die.
And what would you do at that juncture? You'd probably say, fluff the pillow, Mabel.
Honey, shut the phone off.
No, but I could never see going up in the hills, and whether you're on an ATV or whether you're up hunting, walking, or whatever the deal, without having something in case tragedy might strike.
Well, it's just one of those things that people like. People are not taking care of themselves as much as they used to.
Yeah.
They're waiting for somebody else to, and I think sometimes people you just need to be prepared and get up there. You also need to get your kids out. I was going to touch on that.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a tremendous hunting season, and there's nothing funner to get out there with some family and friends. More fun.
There you go. English major, huh?
Yeah, I was.
Graduated from Utah State.
Sorry, it's my Idahoese.
You played football.
Southeastern Idahoese.
You're the only one that looked through the ear hole.
Yeah, well, the helmet fit. So it protected my teeth.
Okay.
But, no, get them out there. I saw a kid shoot bumper stick the other day. It says, hunt with your kids, not for them.
There you go.
And it was, what was that T-shirt? There was one I saw at a sporting show. It said,
hurry, I've only got 30 seconds.
I'm trying to remember it. It was something about, it was nice not to have to wait to find my hunting buddy. I raised mine.
There you go.
And so get out there and have your kids out there and have some fun.
Well, it's been fun again for this month. Thank you very much, Kelton Hatch.
Time went fast.
Idaho Fish and Game. Yeah, lots of good things.
You bet.
All right.
Hey,
thank you. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch, the way things were, the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.